immediately they get an email, thanks for your interest, click here, and it's a video of you talking to them about the benefits of working with a chiropractor, or specific types of insurance, or what's possible with regards to dog training, or how to keep your teeth pearly white, or why you should deal with radon in your home. And it's a video that is built for somebody you already know who they are. This is a customer introduction, sort of grooming, relationship building video. And then you give them a next step. And listen, I'm not saying that you sort of set it and forget it. I'm saying you look at your process and you say, what would I love to happen? And then how can I do that automatically? Maybe it's that if you don't hear from them in 2 days, right? I'm going to use specific numbers. If you send them the video, you monitor whether they watch the video. If they didn't watch the video in the first day, they get this follow-up email. If they did watch the video, they get this follow-up email. And again, this might sound complicated, but think about the time that you spend going and talking with every customer. And even if you're just 100%, you're just a magical converter, well, let's then capture that, the thing that makes you so good, and give it to them in advance so that your follow-up call is half the time, as opposed to an hour conversation, it's 30 minutes, right? And then you can start to really manage that process. Now, one of the reasons that you believe, and that you're probably right, that you're an amazing converter, is because you watch what's going on and you can inject in the process, right? Somebody says, well, I'm not sure if I want to redo my bathroom right now. It's too expensive. You come in and you say, well, let me talk to you about expense. Or they say, I just am not inspired about, training my dog here. I don't know necessarily whether it's possible for somebody to really change, for a dog to really change their behavior. Well, then you can go in here and say, well, let me talk to you about these 3 clients that I had. Well, it's all that stuff. It's all that knowledge, experience that you sort of handle on the fly that you want to think about putting into your intake and conversion process so that somebody is getting you, the nimble, strategic, really, really powerful responder that they're getting you in their, but it's in some way happening whether you're there or not. It can all lead to that ultimate moment when the person gets the celebrity godfather on the phone and you say, I really hope that you've enjoyed all the stuff that we've provided to you. Are you ready to live the life you deserve? Whatever. And then you close that person. The real question with an intake and conversion, or the real sort of promise of an intake and conversion process, is that your process happens the same way every time. It happens whether you're there or not, and you can tinker with it. That's the magic. But if you haven't defined your basic intake and conversion process, if it's still kind of haphazard, I don't care if you have a 1-step intake and conversion process right now. But we then have to say, okay, what could we replace? Right now it's an intake conversion where you pick up the phone and call a person. Could we at least have a script, or could we at least have a checklist, or could we at least send them something in advance? Could we add a step behind it, right? I call them and then I follow up with this step. But getting that process where you're adding steps or adding content or looking at the content that you have in step 2.5 and improving it, that is the magic of turning your intake and conversion process into a into a machine. And that's what I want for you to be able to look at it and say, I'm converting at 16% right now. What if I added, what am I missing? Why are these people falling out? Let me diagnose and prescribe and fix it. And that's what we can do with an intake and conversion process. So in terms of action steps, I would say your first step is to define your current, unvarnished, not hopeful, your current intake and conversion process. And then say, what would be one thing I could add to make this better? The thing could be a step. You say, you know what, I want to make sure that after they register on the website, they already get an automatic email. I want to send an email the next day with a piece of value, an article that I wrote. That's it. Just add to it and see how that works, right? You can always have it's not a get out of jail free card, but it's like an escape hatch, right? Have my, call me button. And, maybe that is the end game. Maybe your end game is, I just want to get them on the phone, but how can I season them? How can I salt their appetite or salt their thirst so that they're more excited? We're more focused on what's unique to them. That was part of what we were talking about with regards to an information product. Really, that's what we're looking for, is how can we use this process to bring people in and convert them from interested to desirous to unstoppable actors where they're making their decision. And by the way, a little sneak preview, we're going to look at this for an onboarding for new customers, right? I mean, we don't have it, but they purchase. Now let's get them moving and motivated. Well, that's the same thing. How do you do it? What's your process? All of this is about defining and improving that process so that you can start seeing better results in your business. But step one, as I said, what's your current process? If you don't have one, let's at least define, what has worked once. They walk into the gym. I talk to them. I ask them some questions. I sit them down. I explain to them about gym membership, and they either sign up or don't. Do you have any kind of follow-up? All right, what would you like that to be? And now you've got a 4-step process. So now the question is, do we change what they do before they come into the gym, right? Do we say, we want you to set an appointment and watch this video before you come in? Or take this diagnostic before you come in? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. Then they come in. Is there something that they're going to get when they come in? Okay. Some sort of distillation of your presentation process. We'll see. Then what happens right before you ask them to, or you give them the opportunity to sign up? What happens after they sign up or after they don't sign up, right? We're just going to put in these processes. It's kind of sales engineering, and it really is, because we're really just saying, what do we want to happen? But right now, for step one, I really just want you to think in terms of what is your current process. Let's define it. That is version 1 of your intake and conversion process, and then we're going to add things to it to make it better. And we can look at things we like in other places all day long, all right? So that is your intake and conversion workshop. Again, I think the first step would be just take an unvarnished look at your current process. And if it's a 1-step process, great. We'll add a step to it, or we'll add new content to that existing step. And we're going to rinse and repeat until that thing is rocking and automatic. And I'll give a preview. Sometimes people get concerned when we talk about doing mailings. I certainly have. You're like, oh, well, it's one thing for me to spend 2 hours of my time, but it's another thing for me to spend this money or that money. We're going to talk at some point over the next couple of weeks about understanding customer value and knowing your numbers. And when you know that you've got a $2,000 deal at the end of the process, and you say, you know what, if I invest $10 here, it's going to increase my conversion rate from 6% to 12%. That is going to be real dollars that you're going to be able to see at the bottom of this sort of step ladder. And it's going to make sense to spend money on lead generating advertising. It's going to make sense to spend money on systematizing, automating your intake process, and certainly as part of that, having physicality or some sort of tangible product. Okay? So that's intake and conversion process. Hope you enjoyed it. Talk to you soon.